Hey everybody, welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe, Mary Kay Cabot, Ashley Bastock recording this here on Wednesday. It's 6 o'clock as we're recording this. Of course, where Mary Kay is right now, it is not 6 o'clock because Mary Kay is joining us from London. So first of all, Mary Kay, congratulations on making it to London for this Browns Vikings showdown.
Yes, it was a little bit of an adventure. Nonetheless, we made it here. Had a little bit of a flat tire on the way to Pittsburgh, but it all worked out fine. Thank you, AAA. And got to the airport on time. Direct flight from Pittsburgh to London. No problems whatsoever. Got a little bit of sleep. And here we are in London. I was going to go to the Vikings practice today, but when we arrived here, and not to go to watch the practice, I wanted to just go talk to them, just do some availability stuff. And we were informed that it was only for Vikings writers and for international UK journalists. We were not allowed to go. So right. I don't know why. I mean, they stream those interviews live, but anyways, so we were the enemy and we were not allowed to do that. Meanwhile, you guys were back here. Of course, the news broke this morning. So I got here and then I had my story ready to go about Dillon because, of course, we knew this was going to happen. And so I had a story all ready to go. And then, I got a tip and I was able to go with it at 8:25. And then everything just kind of flowed from there. And here we are.
We got a lot to get to, obviously. A whole lot to get to, some very unexpected stuff to get to as well that happened. And we will talk about the mime video that obviously has been making the rounds. But let's start with the news of the day, of course. And we've talked about this on the podcast. This was the worst kept secret in the league for 2 days. We got this sense Monday this was going to happen when Kevin Stefanski didn't just come out and say Joe Flacco's the starter. And then, of course, today, as you said, Mary Kay, they finally put it out there that it is going to be Dillon Gabriel starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday in London. So now that it's happened, and of course Joe Flacco is going to be the backup, and the Browns are going to be getting on a plane here in a couple hours, and they're going to fly to London themselves so they can hold their walkthrough and stuff on Thursday. You'll get your first chance to get some reaction on Thursday. Now that it's happened, I guess let's talk about it this way. The best case scenario for the Browns is Dillon Gabriel looks good, takes command of this job, and they feel like they have a starting quarterback for the foreseeable future. I don't know if that's going to happen, but what are you expecting from Dillon Gabriel now as we head into his first start?
Well, first of all, I expect him to play with a modicum of composure. I really feel like he's going to be able to play with some composure, even though I know that Brian Flores is going to try to see to it that he doesn't play with any composure. He's going to try to get him rattled. He's going to blitz him. He's going to disguise coverages. He's going to come after him. He's going to take advantage of potentially a new left tackle and a right tackle who has an elbow injury, a rookie, and some receivers who are young and really have not come together yet as an offense. It's not a well-oiled machine. So he's going to try to make sure that Dillon Gabriel is very rattled and that this whole thing looks like a mess. But in the face of all of that, I sort of feel like Dillon is going to handle at least a portion of that okay and better than some might expect a rookie to, because he's played so many football games. And as I've mentioned before, he's got a lot of muscle memory on playing football. He's got a lot of institutional knowledge. He knows a lot of situations. And if he gets some good help around him and Quinshawn can run the ball, then I think maybe he might be able to function. I think they're going to get him zipping around a little bit. I think it's going to be a quicker, zippier offense. I think he'll try to get the ball out quickly, get it into the hands of his playmakers. I think he has some chemistry with some of the younger guys. He probably has decent chemistry with Harold Fannin, so maybe he and Harold will be able to connect. It's going to be it's rookie ball, you guys. That's what it's going to be. It's basically rookie ball. And sometimes ignorance is bliss. These guys don't really know what they don't know yet. And so maybe they can luck into some decent plays and some decent offense.
Yeah, I'm not going into this expecting like some 350-yard game, which is probably good news because, as Ashley likes to remind me, I once said that Joe Flacco wouldn't come off the couch and throw for 350 yards. I'm not going into this expecting to see that kind of offense or that kind of just dynamic, let's push the ball downfield over and over again. I do think there could be some shorter stuff. There could be some behind the line of scrimmage stuff. Now he'll get some opportunities because you have to. This is the NFL. You have to try and push the ball down the field. But they're going to rely on that run game. They're going to try and make things easy for him. Ashley, we talked to Dillon today. It was very typical Dillon. He loves to talk about the process. You can tell why Kevin Stefanski loves talking to him because they're basically the same person when they talk about this stuff. So if nothing else, I think it's pretty safe to say that we know Dillon is going to be ready mentally for this start. We know he's going to be prepared to do this. It's just going to be about avoiding that moment that he had in his first preseason start, that pick six, right? Where he just made a throw that he knew he shouldn't have made. Can he avoid those types of mistakes in his first real start?
Yeah, that's going to be key, especially because the turnovers clearly were such a big part of the decision to give Dillon this chance to make Joe the backup. Kevin Stefanski actually alluded to that today when I asked him about it. I was kind of surprised he even went as far as he did with that answer, even though I still don't think he said a ton. But I think even with Dillon, like there's still this idea of him having a bit longer of a leash, I think, with that stuff than maybe even Joe did, because it is all new to him. These are going to be his first starts. And look, I think they need to protect the football and play clean football. I think that is the most important thing. Looking at this team's records when they win the takeaway battle, when they play clean football versus when they lose it, that is a huge part, especially with how well this defense is playing right now and what that group is able to do. So I think Dillon Gabriel has to take care of the football, and look, like I'm really curious to see what Brian Flores is going to scheme up this week for the Vikings. He is one of the best D coordinators in the league. I'm curious if the biggest thing I think I'm curious about is he going to make Dillon Gabriel's height apparent? We know Dillon has played at this height for his entire life. He's talked about it. He knows how it works. But there were times in training camp where I thought his height showed up, mostly via Shelby Harris batting down some of his passes at the line. And now Shelby has a knack for that stuff. We talked to him about it after he blocked that kick. But I'm curious to see if Brian Flores is going to be able to scheme anything up in that regard, especially.
Yeah, I mean, if it looks bad Sunday, I think that's a big part of it. Is we see a lot of bad passes, we see that height being an issue. But I think one of the key points here, Mary Kay, that people need to remember is, in a weird way, it almost, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because it does matter, of course. But even if he struggles on Sunday, like, this is not some short, quick, like he's going to get 3 weeks to win this job and then it's on to the next guy. I mean, this is the Browns' third round pick. This is earlier than they wanted to start him, but that kind of goes back to this idea of, well, you picked a 40-year-old who can't move and turns the ball over a bunch, and so you can't be surprised that he couldn't move and turn the ball over a bunch. So you had to know something like this was possible this early in the season. But this is a relatively long-term thing. Now, that doesn't mean like 2-3 years, but they're not just going to, even if he struggles for a month, they're not just going to turn around and go to Shedeur Sanders or Bailey Zappi or something like that. I mean, now that the toothpaste is out of the tube, like I would imagine this is Dillon Gabriel's job for the foreseeable future.
I think it is, but I do think that the turnover piece is important, and Kevin emphasizes it after every single football game. He talks about how important losing or winning the turnover battle is. And that was the point of emphasis coming into this season, was that they did not want to be turning the ball over. And again, that is why Joe primarily lost his job. And it's obvious that that's what this was all about. When they went out and got Kenny Pickett, what they liked about Kenny Pickett is that he was a good game manager who wasn't going to turn the ball over a lot. And when they drafted Dillon Gabriel, they drafted him as sort of a younger version of a Kenny Pickett who could manage the game pretty well and do a lot of things in an above average fashion and not throw a lot of interceptions. That's kind of how it was for both of those guys. So this is about playing as clean a football as possible, running the football and playing good defense. So I do think that he's going to have to do that. If he starts throwing it all over the yard to the other team, I don't know how long that leash is going to be. I really don't. I know this is about developing him, and I'm sure if that's happening, they will try to correct that in him as opposed to just chucking him and going with somebody else. But he can't be doing that. He's got to be playing efficient, good, clean game management football. Now he's going to need some help. And that's not going to be easy because the offense just really has not come together. It's a new offense again. And when you conduct a 4-way quarterback competition in training camp, all 4 of these quarterbacks are not going to get the reps that they need to be up to speed with their supporting cast. So not even Dillon Gabriel has had enough time on task with these guys. Now, they did a lot of 2-spotting, running drills on concurrent fields, and they're still 2-spotting. To this day, they're still 2-spotting in camp. And you'll see Bailey Zappi and Shedeur Sanders on another part of the field throwing a bunch of passes, getting a bunch of reps. But for the most part, it hasn't been absolutely ideal for Dillon in terms of throwing to Jerry Jeudy all the time and throwing to Harold Fannin and David Njoku all the time. He's had plenty of reps with those guys, but not what you would have gotten if you had been the starter from week 1. So I think that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I do think that he has a certain poise about him. And we do know that his strength is his processing speed. And I think that's one of the things that they're really looking forward to seeing how that works out and how that plays out on the grass. Because sometimes what you think is going to happen, it doesn't always happen that way, right? I mean, they thought Dorian Thompson-Robinson was going to be a certain kind of player, and that didn't work out for them. Let's see if this is going to work out for them the way that they think it is. And they've got some different pairs of eyes on it this year. They've got Bill Musgrave looking at this, and they've got Tommy Reese looking at this. So hopefully they're all putting their heads together and they know what they're looking at and they know what to expect and they're realistic about it. But I think running the ball will be paramount. They've got to run the ball. And once again, maybe making some higher percentage short passes where you can get some good yak. And if they can do that, then they could possibly be onto something.
Yeah, and well, he's got to make the start too against Brian Flores' defense, and he's really good at making you think you're seeing one thing, but you're actually not seeing that. So this is going to be a really big test for Dillon in that regard. And Ashley, to the weapons, to the chemistry, to the needing help part, I know we talked to Jerry Jeudy today. You wrote about that. It would be really nice if, like, I think we all came out of training camp feeling like, man, Jerry Judy's going to have another big year. And it just hasn't happened. And it would be really nice if we could sit here today and say, well, at the very least, he's got Jerry Jeudy who catches everything. Or he's got David Njoku who looks awesome so far. Like, unfortunately, we can't say that about a lot of his weapons right now.
No, I mean, Jerry coming off his first Pro Bowl, first 1,000-yard season, this is not the start that he or the Browns envisioned for him. He's only caught 13 passes, only 182 yards. He has no touchdowns. He's tied for second in the league with 4 drops right now. I think that's just not production you want from your number one receiver. And look, for whatever reasons exist, that chemistry with him and Joe Flacco was not there. I think we can attribute a lot of it to the 4-way quarterback competition. Like, there was just so much thrown at these guys and they had to work with so many guys. And those two just were not gelling. Like, it was obvious, right? That one interception happens on Sunday because Jerry trips and, a Lions DB sort of falls into it. But then there's the third down drop, right? Like, those kind of plays are just so uncharacteristic. And I think it would go a long way if Dillon gets help. And look, maybe him and Jerry will have a better natural chemistry than Jerry and Joe did. So, like, that's step one, right? Maybe the tackle situation starts to get right. I think something that maybe fans are overlooking right now is this idea of if Jack Conklin can play and be productive, that is going to be huge for Dillon Gabriel because the right side is his blind side. He's a left-handed quarterback. So really, Jack Conklin is playing more like your left tackle in that situation. And if Kane Robinson is up to speed, I think that is potentially helpful too, right? At least it's different than what we've been watching so far with tackles grading out really, really lowly offensive grades. You want those starters to be grading out in the 70s on the line. And again, you have to take them with a grain of salt. But Dan, you and I were looking today. Cornelius Lucas graded out like a 21.9, I think, in that last game. It was tough.
And he gave up like
credited him with nine
pressures.
Yeah, 9 total pressures they credited him with. So, look, I think they could have done more in that game to help him. I think if Cornelius Lucas does have to play significant snaps in this game, they should help him more, especially with the Vikings edge rushers. And if Jonathan Grenard is out there, like, that's going to be huge. So I think that might potentially be getting right. I think Quinshon Judkins is taking a step every single week. He looks better to me, which I think is a testament to him and the work he's put in. And I also think Isaiah Bond has looked better, especially in each of these last 2 weeks. So I think all of these things, best case scenario, might kind of coalesce at once and could all help Dillon Gabriel find success, even though things have looked like a disaster so far.
All right, we've got to talk about this. I don't even know how to describe it. We haven't actually talked to you a lot about this, Mary Kay, so I obviously want to get your thoughts on this. But just to set this up, so Shedeur Sanders, and you've probably seen this on social media by now. Mary Kay wrote a story about it. So if you didn't see it on social, you probably saw it there, wherever you've seen it. Obviously, look, Joe Flacco's the backup quarterback. So that means Shedeur Sanders is relevant because the decision was made to not make him the backup. Dillon got promoted, Shedeur did not. So I guess to set this up, we're in the locker room. Joe talks, Dillon talks, Jerry Jeudy talks, Denzel talks. They have a podium in the locker room. That's where they talk. Shedeur Sanders is kind of around the corner by the showers. And a small group of reporters were able to go over and talk to, or try to talk to him. I don't know. Somebody was talking, I think, at the time, because I didn't even realize he talked until we got back to the media room. And I couldn't believe how it was described to me. And I'm glad there's video, because I don't think I would have believed this happened if there weren't video. Shedeur stood there and took questions. And then in response, he just mouthed words. He didn't actually say anything. There were no sounds coming out of his mouth. He just mouthed the words. Mary Kay, there have been so many weird things that have happened in that building. There have been so many weird things that have happened when we've been there. Or, I mean, I remember the night of the trade deadline when the fax machine incident happened, right? Like, there's been so many crazy, weird things. And I've got to tell you, this is near the top of the list of one of the most bizarre things that, obviously, again, I didn't witness it in person. I didn't catch it in real time, but this is one of the most bizarre things that has happened there when I've been in that building. I mean, we're going back, for me, at least, to the Hugh Jackson years. Like, this was strange. When you saw this, when you're writing this story, what were you thinking?
Well, I thought that it was in direct response to Shedeur getting absolutely ripped by Rex Ryan on ESPN's Get Up. That was my first thought. I figured that's exactly what he's doing here. This is what he's doing, because Rex Ryan basically ripped him for saying some things that he said. Is it already almost 2 weeks now to ESPN Cleveland, when he said that if you look at the other quarterback play out there, I know I can do better. And then he also said if he were with another team right now, it's obvious he would be playing, and I'm ready right now, and some other pretty strong statements. And Rex Ryan just ripped him for that, said it was embarrassing, said some cryptic things like, if I know, everyone in the league knows, okay? And he didn't really elaborate on what he meant by that, but he was saying, get your expletive in the front row. So I think he was trying to say, you need to be studying, you need to be paying attention, you need to be up to speed on everything that's going on, you need to be studying your playbook. I do think that a lot of the rookies, a lot of these young guys, they don't know, again, what they don't know until they get out there and they try to play some football. And then they realize that they have a lot more studying that they have to do. It's exactly what happened with Dorian Thompson-Robinson after he got thrown into the fire against the Baltimore Ravens as a rookie. He didn't realize just how intense that was going to be until he was out there. and he felt the speed of the game, and he felt them attacking him the way that they did. So Shedeur might not realize what he would be in for. Let's just say they threw him in there against this Brian Flores defense. It might be a little bit too much for him. We don't know. It might even be too much for Dillon Gabriel, who is the fast processor and who is supposedly ready for this sort of thing. It's different. It's different in the NFL. And so Rex Ryan was basically, it seemed, calling him out. And he also said, it's embarrassing that you're not the quarterback. So I think what he's trying to say is you should be the quarterback right now, but you haven't studied enough to be the quarterback. Now, we don't know if that's true or not. We don't know if that's true. What we do know is Shedeur is working hard. I've written this. I wrote it in something that I wrote on Sunday about some of the things that he had said in that interview. The Browns, they really like his work ethic. They like how he's coming up the learning curve. They're liking what they're seeing, but it's a developmental process for him, and he's not ready to be the number 2 yet. He's not ready to be one play away, because that's exactly what you are when you are out there as the number 2 quarterback. You're one play away, and they don't feel like he's there yet. So I think this was an absolute direct response to Rex Ryan completely ripping him to shreds. And his mom, apparently, I couldn't open it because it was on a site that you needed to have a subscription for. But his mom, I think, then defended him in the wake of that criticism by Rex Ryan. So the family's kind of getting involved. In fact, Deion commented after it was posted today by Deion Sanders Jr. on Instagram. So it's kind of reverberating through the family a little bit, but they stick together. They stick together. This is a family affair. So I think that's what that was all about.
Ashley, you sort of, you were making your way over there. I mean, you could tell what you can tell kind of how you sort of took all this in.
Yeah, like to give people an idea of how quick this happened and to kind of like describe the layout of the locker room. Like when you're facing the podium, there's 2 sections of lockers behind you. So there's one set directly facing where the podium is, and then there's another set where it's like double lockers on the other side. So it's walled off and you can't see what's happening back there. And in that back hallway is where Shedeur's locker was. And I saw a couple of people meander over there, and I'm like, oh, I'm guessing Shedeur is back there. So I'm at, like, if we're talking about straight line, I'm at the farthest possible point I can be from Shedeur's locker to where I'm standing on the right side of the podium when Denzel Ward is talking. So I kind of sneak back there, and I see, a comm staffer with Shedeur. I see Shedeur walking away from reporters, and reporters kind of walking away, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, he must have just declined to talk, or they told him not today, or, he's running off to do something. Like, it happened that quickly that there wasn't even truly enough time to walk over there. And then we're all kind of talking about it afterwards. And it was kind of the reaction you had, Dan. I'm like, he did what? When I first heard about it. And then I saw the video and I'm like, oh, like he was just mouthing the words. And I mean, it makes sense in terms of the Rex Ryan criticism of it all. I didn't quite put that together immediately like Mary Kay did in her story. I think initially it was like, well, it's probably because of the blowback he got from how he talked last week in that ESPN Cleveland video. So it indirectly kind of was because Rex Ryan was responding to all of that. And then it's more directly, I think, about Rex Ryan and very harsh comments. And look, I think it's just kind of another testament to this is another day where truthfully what's happening on the field is not about Shedeur Sanders, at least not yet. But the day kind of devolved into very much becoming about Shedeur Sanders and this new video, and not so much about Joe Flacco getting benched or Dillon Gabriel about to make his first NFL start.
I think this is insane. I think this is, again, this is one of the craziest things I have ever seen. Like, and I'm not alone in this. I'm seeing other people on social media, like reporters, people who have been in this business, saying the same thing. Like, this is insane. And I can't believe, like, just say you don't want to talk. Like, just say you don't want to talk. Then you're not a story. Then you're not the center of attention. And this is the second straight week this has happened, where your third string quarterback has been the center of attention because of something, in this case, something he didn't say. And I just don't understand. Like, I don't get it. I don't. I mean, that's not to like you explained it, Mary Kay. You explained why he did it, but I just say you don't want to talk. Don't do this. Don't do it. It's ridiculous. And honestly, at this point, I think the Cleveland Browns need to really start asking themselves, is the juice worth the squeeze here? And they're not going to do anything, but like, I don't know. Is this where Joe Flacco's career might essentially be over? And now he might start again this year. There's 13 games left, but if he doesn't, his career's probably over. And he stood in front of us and talked to us for 5 minutes, even though he didn't want to do it. So like, and then you've got in another part of the locker room, Shedeur Sanders miming answers to questions. It's I don't know. my reaction is almost like maybe the Browns need to just send a message and say, hey buddy, Bailey Zappe's our third emergency quarterback on Sunday. You need to grow up. I don't think they'll do that, but Mary Kay, I just think this was completely insane. And again, the explanation is what it is. I don't think there's any defending this. I just don't think if you're the third string quarterback, you should be making headlines like this. I don't know. I know Shedeur Army will be mad that I said that. Whatever. This was an insane thing, and I'm just going to call a spade here. This was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this was Dillon's day. This was an opportunity for Dillon to be named the starter and to stand in front of that podium and to have the headlines be about him and to talk about the energy and the juice that he wants to bring, and to talk about how he hopes that he can bring a sense of hope to people. And I think that was a cool quote from him. He had a number. I thought he had a number of really good quotes, actually. One of them was, if you try to wait for the perfect time, you're going to be waiting for your whole life. So he had some really eloquent things to say. And I feel as though it's unfortunate that those things got overlooked by the Shedeur story. I wish it didn't happen like that for Dillon. He deserved his day in the sun today. He'll get it again on Sunday, and hopefully for him, he'll have an opportunity to really shine on that day. But I think that different players arrive in the NFL at different levels of maturity. And if you look at what's happening right now in Tennessee, you've got Cam Ward down there stepping up to the mic and dropping some expletives and saying some things that his head coach had to address today and say, we don't talk like that. And he talked about the maturity issue with it too. So I think, some of these guys are on a learning curve when it comes to some of the things that they say. And now Dillon, I don't think we're ever going to get a crazy quote out of Dillon, right? I mean, right. Dillon is, he's measured, he's polished. He's started 63 games in college. He's done a lot of post-game interviews, and that's just not his personality, right? He's just not super flashy when it comes to interviews. Now, I've seen him in other settings and heard about him in other settings where he's very dynamic in terms of personality, leadership amongst his teammates and stuff like that. But standing up in front of us, that's just not who he is. Now, Shedeur, on the other hand, he likes to make headlines. He likes to make news. He likes to put himself out there. He likes to live in the fishbowl. He likes his words to be heard. And so, and sometimes to not be heard.
Yeah, except for today.
Today, he did not want his words to be heard, but they spoke louder than many of his other words. And the way that I led my story was that maybe he was just gearing up for a British pantomime performance in the London Theatre District, which is a very, very popular thing here. So maybe there was an element of that to it. But no, he kind of stole the show today, and he made a lot of noise with that silence. And I'm sure. Oh, and another thing I might add is that the PR staff shut it down. The Browns shut it down. They did not let him go on because he would have been asked 4 more questions or 5 more questions probably before he walked away, because this is what he wanted to do. And then, but the PR staff, they shut it down. They're like, no, we've had enough of this. If you're not answering questions like that, let's shut it down. And they do a good job of that. If they see that something has gone off the rails, they will rein it in, and they will control that. But as far as Deion's reaction to it, he gave it a 10 laughing emoji, and he said, "Good one, son. You did that." So he got approval, from Deion for that. So this is not something that, I think the family was very upset about what Rex Ryan said about Shedeur. They were very, very, very upset about that. And I think that this whole thing was a response to that.
Yeah. And again, I get that. But like, the next time somebody says Shedeur's ready to start, I'm just going to find a copy of this video and say, no, he's not. He's clearly not mature enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's what this told me today. I mean, at least that's how I see it.
I think like the other unfortunate part about all of this is that by doing this now, people are assigning meaning to what he did. And he had a chance to say how he felt. I think there were better ways to handle it than how it was handled. I think not talking would have been better. I think people probably still would have assigned meaning to that. Although today you have a built-in excuse by all he had to say is, I have to get ready to go to London and I don't have time. And I don't think anyone would have bothered him. Or you talk and give, just a standard answer about basically what he said, right? That he's waiting for his time, he's working, he's ready for when it comes. But by doing this now, there's a lot of unnecessary, in my opinion, chatter about, Shedeur is mad. Like, Shedeur is angry that he still is the starting quarterback. Shedeur thinks he should have been promoted to the backup, right? Like, there's all this meaning now on social media, all these assumptions being made that, quite honestly, are not good for him, are not good for the team, and all could have been avoided if I think it was handled in a different way. And I always think that's unfortunate. And I think it's sometimes players, when they're new in the NFL and don't quite understand the media landscape, not realizing how quickly these things can spiral. And even Shedeur, who I do think is actually fairly media savvy. Like, I'm sure he thought this would get some play, but I wonder, like, did he realize just how much play this was going to get? Did he realize the negative stuff that was now going to be attributed to him or attached to him unfairly, I would say? And maybe he didn't quite understand the extent of it, because it just is a different beast. I mean, I know he made headlines when he was at Colorado, but college football just is different than the NFL. This is a different kind of microscope. It's a much higher magnitude. So that part of it is kind of unfortunate too. This didn't need to happen, right? These didn't need to be discussions, and now they are.
All right. Well, it made for an interesting day. The Browns are traveling to London. Of course, Mary Kay is already over there. Mike Hall won't be making the trip to London. He's been ruled out for Sunday with his knee injury. So he won't be making that trip to London. So the Browns will be without him again. But as far as we know, everyone else is making that trip. So Mary Kay, I know it's late over there. This time difference thing has me thrown all off. So, I know just going to the West Coast sometimes, I'm like, I don't get adjusted for days and days. So we'll let you go. We will have our preview pod coming up. We'll cover this team like we always do, even though they're across the Atlantic Ocean. You can find that all at cleveland.com/Browns. Find the Orange and Brown Talk podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your pods. You can also subscribe on our YouTube channel, Cleveland Browns on cleveland.com. There's a tab there for Orange and Brown Talk, so you can see the pods that we put up on YouTube. For Mary Kay and Ashley, I'm Dan. Thanks for listening, everybody.